Get your filthy black hands off my husband.
The nurse froze, gloved fingers still on the IV line.
Are you deaf? Step away.
Ma'am, I'm his assigned...
You're nothing. Disgusting. Someone like you has no business touching him.
Heart monitors beeped. Nobody in that hallway breathed. Then the woman slapped her, hard, right across the face. The sound cracked through the corridor like a gunshot. The nurse's head snapped sideways. A red handprint bloomed on her cheek. She didn't swing back. She just stood there, jaw tight, eyes burning. But this woman had no idea who she'd just put her hands on. Or rather, she had no idea who was coming for her. Because when that man walked through those hospital doors, the color drained from her face. And by then, it was already too late. But before we get to that moment, let me take you back to the beginning, 6 hours earlier, before the slap, before the screaming, before any of it. Harper Powell's alarm went off at 5:15 a.m. The apartment was still dark. The coffee maker gurgled from the kitchen. The smell of fresh grounds drifted through the narrow hallway and into her bedroom, where the sheets were already pulled back and folded neat. That was Harper. Everything in its place. Everything on time. She stood in front of the bathroom mirror, pulling her braids into a tight, clean bun. No jewelry. No earrings. Just a small gold chain her mother gave her before she passed, tucked under her scrubs where nobody could see it. On the bedroom wall hung a framed nursing degree. Next to it, a photograph of her mother in the same profession. Same scrubs, same soft eyes. Same hospital, actually. Her mother had worked at St. Adelaide Memorial for 22 years before cancer took her. Harper followed in her footsteps, 7 years now on the trauma floor. Not because the money was good. The money was never good. She did it because every time she helped a patient breathe easier, she felt her mother standing right beside her. On the kitchen counter, her phone buzzed. A text from someone saved as D with a red heart emoji. "Good morning, beautiful. Save some lives today. I'll handle the rest." She smiled, typed back a heart, grabbed her keys. She drove a 6-year-old Honda Civic to work. No luxury car, no tinted windows. Nothing about Harper Powell screamed money or power or status. And that was by choice. Because there was something about Harper that nobody at work knew. Not her colleagues, not her boss, not a single soul on that hospital floor. Her fiancé was Dominic Caldwell. The name might not mean anything to you yet, but in this city, that name meant everything. We'll get to him. Trust me. For now, Harper was just a nurse, clocking in for another 12-hour shift. St. Adelaide Memorial Hospital sat on the corner of 5th and Broadmoor, right in the center of downtown. It was a big building, 6 floors of beige concrete and tinted glass that had seen better days. The parking lot was always full by 7. The emergency room never slept. Harper walked through the sliding glass doors at 6:45 a.m. The smell hit first, that unmistakable hospital cocktail of bleach, recycled air, and stale coffee from the vending machine near the elevator. The ER was already humming. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Sneakers squeaked on polished floors. Somewhere down the hall, a child was crying. A gurney rattled past, pushed by 2 paramedics moving fast. Controlled chaos. That's what the nurses called it. And Harper lived for it. She swiped her badge at the nurses' station. Brenda Collins, a fellow nurse, and the closest thing Harper had to a best friend at work, looked up from her charts. "Morning, Harper. You look rested for once." "Don't jinx it," Harper said, pulling her stethoscope around her neck. "What's on the board?" "Mostly stable. But we got a VIP in room 12, Terrence Whitmore. Came in last night, chest pains at some charity gala. Cardiac team ran tests. Mild episode, nothing critical. He's under observation." Harper raised an eyebrow. "Whitmore? As in Whitmore Real Estate?" Brenda nodded. "That's the one. Big money. His wife apparently made a whole scene last night when they brought him in, demanded a private room, complained about the sheets. Harper shook her head. Great. He's fine, though. Sweet old guy, actually. You're assigned to him this morning. Got it. Harper grabbed her clipboard and headed to room 12. Terrence Whitmore was sitting up in bed when she walked in. 60 years old, gray hair, reading glasses perched on his nose, flipping through a newspaper. The room smelled faintly of the flowers someone had already sent. Yellow roses, still wrapped in cellophane, on the windowsill. He looked up and smiled. You must be my morning nurse. That's me, Harper Powell. I'll be looking after you today, Mr. Whitmore. Please, call me Terrence. She checked his vitals. Blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen levels. Everything stable. She adjusted his IV drip, explained the schedule for his upcoming tests, made small talk about the weather. He was polite, cooperative, even cracked a quiet joke about hospital food. Nothing about this moment suggested what was coming. Nothing at all. About 45 minutes into Harper's shift, the elevator doors at the end of the hallway opened, and Gretchen Whitmore stepped out. You could hear her before you saw her, the sharp click of designer heels on linoleum, the jangling of gold bracelets, the impatient huff of a woman who believed the entire world moved too slowly for her. She was 55 years old, blonde hair pinned in a stiff updo, a cream-colored cashmere coat draped over her shoulders like a cape, sunglasses pushed up on her forehead, even though she hadn't been outside in hours. A Hermes bag hung from the crook of her elbow, the kind that costs more than most people's cars. She walked past the reception desk without stopping. A young volunteer at the front, a college kid with a lanyard and a polite smile, stepped forward. Excuse me, ma'am, could you please sign in before? Gretchen didn't even look at her. She held up one hand like she was swatting a fly. I don't sign in. The volunteer blinked, opened her mouth, closed it again, stepped back. Gretchen kept walking. She passed a Latino orderly pushing a supply cart. He moved to the side to let her through. She didn't acknowledge him, didn't nod, didn't say thank you, just swept past like he was part of the furniture. That was Gretchen Whitmore. Old money, old entitlement. The kind of woman who tipped only when she felt like performing generosity. The kind who called managers by their first names and housekeepers by no name at all. The kind who had never once in her entire life been told she was wrong. She reached room 12 and pushed the door open without knocking. Inside, Harper was standing beside Terrence's bed. She had just finished adjusting his heart monitor. The room was calm. Terrence was sipping water through a straw. Morning light filtered through the blinds, casting thin stripes across the white bed sheets. Gretchen stopped in the doorway. Her eyes didn't go to her husband first. They went to Harper, specifically to Harper's hands, still resting near Terrence's arm where the monitor clip was attached. Her expression shifted. It wasn't concern. It wasn't worry. It was disgust. What is this? Her voice was ice. Terrence looked up from his water. Gretchen, this is Nurse Powell. She's been taking care of... I wasn't asking you. Gretchen stepped into the room. Her perfume came with her. Heavy, expensive, suffocating. It swallowed the clean hospital air whole. She looked Harper up and down, slowly, deliberately. The way someone inspects something they've already decided to throw away. Who authorized you to touch my husband? Harper's hand stayed steady. Her voice stayed level. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm the registered nurse assigned to your husband's care. I was adjusting his heart monitor. It's part of his treatment plan. I didn't ask for your life story. Gretchen set her bag on the chair. She didn't sit. She stood with her arms crossed, planting herself between Harper and the bed like a barricade. I want someone else. Now. Ma'am? Don't ma'am me. I said I want a different nurse. Someone who actually looks like they belong in a hospital. The words landed exactly where Gretchen meant them to land. Harper felt every syllable settle into her chest. She kept her face still, but her jaw tightened, just barely. A fraction of a movement that nobody would notice unless they were looking. But Gretchen was looking, and she enjoyed what she saw. Is there a specific concern with my care, Mrs. Whitmore? My concern is you, standing here, breathing the same air as my husband. Is that specific enough? Terrence shifted in his bed. The heart monitor beeped a little faster. Gretchen, she's been wonderful. Really, there's no need to... Terrence. One word, one look. And he went quiet. 28 years of marriage had taught him exactly when to stop talking. Gretchen turned back to Harper. Her lip curled. Let me spell it out so even you can understand. I don't want you. I don't trust you. And I don't want someone like you anywhere near my family. Someone like you. 3 words. Simple. Clean. Loaded with everything they were designed to carry. Harper had heard them before. Different mouths, different rooms, same venom every single time. She took a breath. Mrs. Whitmore, I understand. I'll inform the charge nurse about your request. Professional, measured, not a single crack in the armor. She turned toward the door. And don't touch anything on your way out. God knows what goes missing when people like you are left unsupervised. Harper stopped. Her back was to Gretchen. Her fingers curled tight around the clipboard. The knuckles paled. For 1 second, just one, something flashed behind her eyes. Something hot. Something old. Then it was gone. She walked out without a word. The hallway stretched ahead, bright and sterile. The fluorescent lights hummed their endless hum. 2 nurses at the station kept their eyes glued to their screens, pretending they hadn't heard every word that had just come through that open door. But they had. Of course they had. You could see it in their faces, the tight lips, the lowered eyes, the discomfort of people who knew something ugly had just happened and didn't know what to do about it. Gretchen didn't wait. She marched straight to the nurse's station, heels cracking against the floor like gunfire. She placed both palms flat on the counter and leaned forward until her face was inches from the charge nurses. I need whoever runs this floor, right now. The charge nurse, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and a coffee stain on her sleeve, looked up slowly. I'm the charge nurse. How can I help you? That woman. Gretchen pointed down the hall toward Harper. She didn't bother turning around to look. She didn't need to. Her finger aimed like a weapon. Keep her away from my husband. I want her removed from his care. Immediately. Ma'am, Nurse Powell is one of our most experienced. I don't care if she has a Nobel Prize. I said get rid of her. Find me someone competent. Someone more suitable. She let that last word sit in the air. Suitable. It hung there like smoke. Everyone within earshot understood exactly what it meant. Every single person. The charge nurse glanced down the hallway. Harper was standing near the supply closet, close enough to have heard everything. Their eyes met. Harper gave the smallest shake of her head. Don't fight it. Let it go. The charge nurse hesitated. She knew what this was. Everyone on that floor knew what this was. But Gretchen Whitmore was loud. Gretchen Whitmore was wealthy. And her husband's name was carved on a bronze plaque in the hospital lobby, right next to a 6-figure donation that helped build the new pediatric wing. That plaque bought silence. It always did. So the charge nurse exhaled through her nose and said, I'll see what I can arrange. Gretchen smiled. That thin, cold, satisfied smile of a woman who had never once heard the word no and expected she never would. She turned and walked back toward room 12 without another word. Her heels clicked a victory march down the corridor. Harper leaned against the supply closet door. She pressed her fingers to her temples, closed her eyes. The gold chain beneath her scrubs felt heavier than usual, like it was pulling her down towards something she didn't want to feel. Brenda appeared beside her, quiet, warm. She put a hand on Harper's arm and held it there. Don't let her win. You're the best nurse on this floor, and every person here knows it. Harper managed a small nod. I know. She's a miserable woman, Harper. Miserable people need someone to step on just to feel tall. I know that too. But knowing didn't stop the sting. It never did. Because here's the thing about moments like this. It's never just the words. Words are just sounds. It's what sits underneath them. The absolute certainty in Gretchen Whitmore's voice that Harper didn't belong here. That her hands, the same hands that had held dying patients through their last breath, the same hands that had restarted hearts on this very floor, were somehow dirty because of the color of her skin. That's what burned. Not the insult. The conviction behind it. Harper straightened up, took a long breath, tucked the chain back under her scrubs, and went back to work. Because that's what Harper Powell did. She showed up. She stayed calm. She did her job. But today, staying calm was about to cost her more than it ever had before. Harper was reassigned to a patient in room 8, a teenager with a broken wrist. Simple, routine. The charge nurse didn't say why. She didn't have to. Everyone understood. Harper didn't argue. She grabbed her clipboard, adjusted her stethoscope, and walked down the hallway without looking back. Because that was the professional thing to do. That was the smart thing to do. Swallow it. Move on. Survive. But Gretchen Whitmore was not the kind of woman who won and walked away. She was the kind who won and then came back to make sure you knew it. Harper was barely 10 minutes into her new assignment when she heard the heels again. Click, click, click. Getting closer. She was standing in the hallway outside room 8, updating her chart on the portable computer station. Her back was turned. She didn't see Gretchen coming. But she felt it. The way you feel a storm rolling in before the first crack of thunder. You! Harper's fingers stopped on the keyboard. She didn't turn around. Not yet. I'm talking to you. Turn around when I speak to you. Harper turned. Slowly. Calmly. Her face was neutral. Her eyes steady. Gretchen was standing 6 feet away. Arms crossed. Chin raised. That same look of absolute contempt painted across her face like it had been born there. Can I help you, Mrs. Whitmore? Yes, you can. You can explain why my husband's watch is missing. Harper blinked. Excuse me? His watch, the Rolex. It was on the bedside table this morning. Now it's gone. Gretchen took a step closer. Her voice dropped to something low and venomous. And you were the last person in that room. Harper felt her stomach tighten. Mrs. Whitmore, I did not touch your husband's personal belongings. The watch may be in his overnight bag, or don't tell me where it may be. I know exactly where it is. Gretchen's eyes dropped to Harper's pockets, then to her waist, then back up, scanning, accusing. I think we both know what happened here. A nurse passing by slowed down, then another. A patient's family member, a middle-aged man holding a cup of coffee, stopped in the hallway and stared. Harper kept her voice low and even. I'm going to ask you to speak with the charge nurse if you have a concern about missing property. I did not take anything. Of course you'd say that. Gretchen stepped closer, close enough that Harper could smell her perfume again. That heavy, cloying cloud of jasmine and money. Close enough that Harper could see the tiny veins of anger in the whites of Gretchen's eyes. I've seen your type my whole life. You smile, you say yes ma'am, no ma'am, and the second someone turns their back, things disappear. That is not true, and I need you to step back. Or what? Harper didn't answer. She held her ground, her clipboard pressed against her chest like a shield. Her heart was hammering. She could feel it in her throat, in her wrists, behind her eyes. But nothing on her face showed it. Years of training, years of practice, years of learning how to stand in the fire without flinching. Gretchen leaned in even closer. Her breath was warm and bitter. Her finger came up and pointed directly at Harper's face, close enough to almost touch her nose. You think this badge makes you somebody? You think those little scrubs make you important? Let me tell you something, sweetheart. Without that uniform, you're nothing. You're less than nothing, and everyone on this floor knows it. The hallway had gone completely still. The hum of the fluorescent lights suddenly sounded deafening. A heart monitor beeped from a nearby room. Somewhere far away, an elevator dinged. Harper swallowed. Mrs. Whitmore, please step back. I will not ask again. Gretchen smiled. A cruel, slow, satisfied smile. The smile of a woman who had cornered something small and helpless and was savoring the moment before the kill. Make me. And then she grabbed Harper's badge lanyard, yanked it forward. Harper stumbled, 1 step, half a step, her balance broken for just a second. And in that second, Gretchen's other hand came up. Open palm, full swing. The slap connected with the left side of Harper's face. The sound was sharp, violent. It echoed off the walls like something breaking, like the crack of a branch snapping in half. Every person in that hallway heard it, every single one. Harper's head snapped to the right. Her hand flew to her cheek. The skin was already hot, already stinging. She could feel the outline of Gretchen's fingers imprinted on her face like a brand. Her eyes watered. Not from sadness, from the sheer physical shock of being struck by a stranger in the middle of her workplace, in front of her colleagues, in front of patients, in front of a security camera mounted on the ceiling, its small red light blinking silently above them. The hallway was frozen. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. A child in a nearby room started whimpering. A coffee cup slipped from the middle-aged man's hand and hit the floor with a dull splash. The brown liquid spread across the white linoleum like a stain. Gretchen stood there, chin up, chest out, not a trace of remorse. That's what happens when you don't know your place. Harper lowered her hand from her cheek. Her fingers were trembling. Her jaw was locked so tight her teeth ached. Every muscle in her body screamed at her to swing back, to scream, to do something. But she didn't. She took 1 step back, then another. Her eyes never left Gretchen's face. But she didn't raise her voice. She didn't raise her hand. She just stood there, cheek burning, chest heaving, and let the silence speak for itself. Brenda Collins came running from the nurse's station. Her sneakers squeaked against the floor. Her face was white. Oh my God, Harper, Harper, are you okay? Harper didn't answer. She couldn't. Not yet. Brenda spun toward Gretchen. You just assaulted her. In a hospital, in front of witnesses. What is wrong with you? Gretchen didn't even flinch. She straightened her coat, adjusted her bracelet, looked at Brenda the way she might look at a stain on her tablecloth. She came at me. I was defending myself. She didn't move. I saw the whole thing. Then you need your eyes checked. Brenda was already pulling out her phone. I'm calling security, and I'm calling the police. Call whoever you want. My husband has donated more to this hospital than you'll make in your entire career. Nothing is going to happen to me. From inside room 12, Terrence Whitmore's voice drifted into the hallway. Weak, tired, broken. Gretchen? What did you do? She ignored him. 2 hospital security guards rounded the corner at a half jog. Big men, wide shoulders, radios crackling on their belts. Right behind them came Dr. Elaine Crawford, head of the ER department. She walked fast, not running, but close. Her white coat billowed behind her. Her reading glasses were still perched on her head. She'd come straight from her office. She took one look at Harper's face, the red welt still visible, the swelling already beginning, and her expression turned to stone. What happened here? Brenda spoke first, then the orderly who had been standing near the supply room, then the middle-aged man with the spilled coffee. One by one, the witnesses told the same story, the same words, the same sequence, the same slap. Dr. Crawford listened without interrupting. Then she turned to Gretchen. Mrs. Whitmore, I need you to understand something very clearly. What you just did constitutes assault on a healthcare worker inside this hospital. This is something we take extremely seriously. Gretchen rolled her eyes. Actually, rolled them. Assault? Please. Do you have any idea how much money my husband has poured into this building? One phone call, and I'll have your job. Hers too. And anyone else who gets in my way. Dr. Crawford didn't blink. Ma'am, I'm calling the police, and I'm calling our legal department. I would strongly advise you to stop talking. For the first time, just for a flash, something crossed Gretchen's face. Not fear, not yet, but the faintest flicker of uncertainty, the tiniest crack in the armor. She recovered quickly, pulled out her phone, started dialing her attorney. Meanwhile, Harper sat in the break room. The door was closed, the lights were dim. Brenda had brought her a bag of ice wrapped in a paper towel. Harper pressed it to her cheek. The cold stung against the heat of the slap. Her phone buzzed on the table. A text from Dee. How's your morning going, beautiful? She stared at the screen. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She didn't respond. Not yet. But she would. And when she did, everything was going to change. Harper sat alone in the break room for 3 minutes. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just pressed the ice to her cheek and stared at the wall. The vending machine hummed. The clock ticked. The ice crackled softly against her skin. Then she picked up her phone. She didn't call the union. She didn't call a lawyer. She called Dee. The phone rang twice. Hey, baby, miss me already? Dom, her voice cracked. Just barely. Something happened at work. The warmth in his voice disappeared instantly, like someone flipped a switch. Talk to me. A patient's wife. She called me things, horrible things, in front of everyone. She accused me of stealing. She grabbed my badge. And then she slapped me. Silence. Not the kind that means someone is thinking, the kind that means something dangerous has woken up. When Dominic spoke again, his voice was low. Every word measured, like a surgeon choosing a blade. Are you safe right now? Yes, security is here. Dr. Crawford called the police. Don't leave the hospital. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to anyone about settling this. Okay. I'm on my way. The line went dead. Brenda knocked on the break room door. Who was that? My fiancé. He's coming. What does he do? Harper almost smiled. You'll see. 22 minutes later, the emergency room doors slid open, and the temperature on the entire floor changed. Dominic Caldwell walked in like the building belonged to him. 6'3", dark navy suit that fit like it had been sewn onto his body. A face carved from granite, sharp jaw, dark eyes, not a trace of warmth anywhere on it. Behind him walked 2 associates from the DA's office. They moved like people who had done this 100 times before. The nurse at the front station looked up. Her pen slipped from her fingers and clattered on the desk. She knew that face. Everyone in this city knew that face. It was on the evening news twice a week, on billboards outside the courthouse, on the cover of the city magazine, twice, with the same headline both times. The closer, Dominic Caldwell, district attorney. The man who put a sitting councilman behind bars, the man who prosecuted the Brennan corruption case and won a sentence so severe that defense attorneys still whispered about it. A 98% conviction rate. Brenda was standing in the hallway when she saw him turn the corner. She grabbed the arm of the nurse beside her. "Oh my God, that's Dominic Caldwell. That's the DA." Her voice was barely a whisper. "That's Harper's fiancé?" He walked into the break room, saw Harper, saw the red mark on her cheek, still swollen, still angry. He touched her face with the back of his fingers, gentle, careful, the opposite of everything that had been done to her today. She's not getting away with this. He turned and walked back into the hallway. Gretchen was still near the nurse's station, still arguing with Dr. Crawford, still waving her phone, threatening to call her attorney, the hospital board, the mayor. Then she looked up and saw Dominic walking toward her. Something about the way he moved, the authority, the weight, the certainty in every step, made her pause. He stopped in front of her, close, unmovable. "Mrs. Whitmore, I'm Dominic Caldwell, district attorney." 3 words. District, attorney. The color left Gretchen's face like someone pulled a plug. It drained from her cheeks, her lips, the knuckles still wrapped around her phone. Ghost pale. The kind of pale that only comes when a person realizes the ground beneath them has disappeared. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. "I have a hallway full of witnesses. There is security camera footage. The woman you assaulted is a registered nurse performing her duties. In this state, assaulting a healthcare worker is a felony." This is a misunderstanding. I'm formally recusing myself due to my personal relationship with the victim, but I want to be very clear." He paused, let the silence cut. "The full weight of the law is coming for you." Gretchen spun around, wild-eyed, desperate. "Terrence, call the lawyer. Do something." From inside room 12, Terrence looked at his wife, still in bed, still hooked to monitors. And for the first time in 28 years, he shook his head. He didn't say a word. He just looked away. Officer Todd Brennan arrived 4 minutes later. He listened to the witnesses. He reviewed the situation with Dr. Crawford. He looked at the mark on Harper's face. Then he approached Gretchen. "Ma'am, turn around and place your hands behind your back." "You can't do this. Do you know who I am?" "Hands behind your back, now." The handcuffs clicked shut. Small, metallic, final. And Gretchen Whitmore, the woman who walked into this hospital like she owned it, was led down that same hallway, past every nurse, every orderly, every patient, every person she had sneered at, dismissed, and degraded. Nobody said a word. The silence said everything. The ride to the police station took 11 minutes. Gretchen sat in the back of the patrol car with her wrists cuffed behind her. The leather seats smelled like sweat and disinfectant. The metal grate between her and Officer Brennan reflected her face back at her. Mascara smudged, lipstick faded, eyes wide. She didn't speak the entire ride. For the first time in maybe her entire life, Gretchen Whitmore had nothing to say. At the station, they took everything. Her Hermes bag, her gold bracelets, her diamond earrings, her phone. Each item placed into a clear plastic bag, sealed and labeled. She watched her jewelry disappear behind the intake counter, like pieces of her identity being stripped away one by one. They took her mugshot, front, side. The flash was harsh and white. She flinched both times. Then they put her in a holding cell, a metal bench, a steel toilet with no lid, gray walls. The fluorescent light buzzed the same way it did in the hospital. Except here, there was no one to yell at, no one to intimidate, no one who cared about her husband's donations. Her attorney arrived within the hour, Gerald Ashford, expensive suit, silver cufflinks. He sat across from her in the interview room and listened to her version. Then he set his pen down. Gretchen, there's security camera footage. It was self-defense. She came at me. The footage shows otherwise. Multiple witnesses have given statements, and the district attorney's office has already assigned a senior prosecutor. Given who the victim's fiancé is, every attorney in that building will treat this case like their career depends on it. Gretchen's face crumbled. Not with remorse, with the realization that money wasn't going to fix this. Can we settle? Pay her off? The charge is felony assault on a healthcare worker. The state is the plaintiff, not the nurse. You can't write a check to make a felony disappear. Gretchen stared at him. Her hands, the same hands that had slapped Harper 3 hours ago, were shaking. She was formally charged that afternoon. Back at St. Adelaide Memorial, the news moved through the building like electricity. Dr. Crawford called an emergency staff meeting on the ER floor. She stood in front of 30 nurses, technicians, and orderlies. What happened today to one of our nurses was unacceptable. It was criminal, and it will not be tolerated. This hospital will cooperate fully with law enforcement. Nurse Powell has our complete support. Silence. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Then the whole room. Harper wasn't there. She was still in the break room with Brenda. But when Brenda told her about it later, Harper's eyes filled with tears for the first time that day. Not from pain, from being seen. The hospital offered her paid leave. She took it reluctantly. She would rather have worked. But Dominic insisted. She needed time. In room 12, Terrence Whitmore sat alone. The flowers on the windowsill had wilted slightly. The newspaper from that morning was still folded on the side table. The heart monitor beeped its steady rhythm. But everything else had changed. He picked up his phone and called his son from his first marriage. "Tyler, your stepmother was arrested today." A pause. Then his son's voice, flat and unsurprised. "What did she do this time?" Terrence told him, each word heavier than the last. "Dad, I've been telling you for years. She's out of control. This was always going to happen." Terrence didn't argue. He couldn't. Not anymore. An hour later, he asked Dr. Crawford if he could speak with Harper. Dr. Crawford said that was entirely up to Harper. Harper agreed. Terrence sat up in his bed when she walked in. His eyes were red. His hands fidgeted with the edge of the blanket. "Nurse Powell, I don't have the right words." His voice broke. "I'm sorry. I should have stopped her. Years ago. Not just today. Years ago." Harper stood at the foot of his bed. Her cheek was still swollen, the faint outline of fingers still visible beneath the skin. She looked at him for a long time. "I appreciate you saying that, Mr. Whitmore." That was all she said. No absolution, no "it's okay." Because it wasn't okay, and they both knew it. She turned and walked out. The door closed softly behind her. The story broke on the evening news the next day. Calvin Shaw, a reporter from the city's NBC affiliate, stood outside St. Adelaide Memorial with a microphone in his hand and the hospital's glass entrance behind him. A prominent socialite is facing felony charges tonight after allegedly assaulting a nurse inside this emergency room. The incident, captured on hospital security cameras, has sparked outrage across social media and raised serious questions about the treatment of healthcare workers in this country. The segment ran for 4 minutes. They showed the security footage, faces partially blurred, but the sequence unmistakable. A woman in a cashmere coat stepping forward, a hand swinging, a nurse's head snapping to the side, and then nothing. The nurse didn't fight back. She just stood there. 4 minutes of television. That's all it took. By midnight, the video had been viewed 2 million times. By morning, It had crossed 10 million. The hashtags came fast. Hashtag Justice for Harper trended nationally within 12 hours. Hashtag Protect Healthcare Workers followed right behind it. Nurses from every state posted videos of their own experiences, stories of being screamed at, shoved, spit on, slapped. Harper's face became the face of something much bigger than one woman in one hallway. Then, people started digging into Gretchen Whitmore. Her social media was still public. Nobody on her team had thought to lock it down. And what people found was a gold mine of exactly who this woman was. Country club photos where she was the only one smiling, and the staff behind her looked miserable. A post from 2 years ago complaining about a rude black cashier at a department store, the language dripping with contempt. A comment under a friend's photo that read, "The neighborhood is changing, not for the better." Screenshots from a private Facebook group where she referred to the family who moved in next door as those people. Post after post, year after year, a digital trail of exactly who Gretchen Whitmore had always been. The public was furious, but the law was just getting started. The DA's office, with Dominic formally recused and a senior colleague named Prosecutor Ellen Graves handling the case, launched a full investigation. And what they found turned a single assault charge into something much worse. 3 years earlier, a black housekeeper named Wanda Price had filed a civil complaint against Gretchen. Wanda had worked in the Whitmore home for 5 years. One day, a pair of diamond earrings went missing. Gretchen accused Wanda immediately, called the police, had her detained for 6 hours. The earrings were later found in Gretchen's coat pocket. Wanda was never charged, but she was fired that same day. The case was quietly settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. Wanda signed a non-disclosure agreement. That wasn't all. 18 months before the hospital incident, a server at an upscale restaurant filed a complaint against Gretchen after she threw a glass of red wine at the woman during an argument about a delayed appetizer. The server, a young black woman named Danielle Ford, said Gretchen called her a racial slur before throwing the glass. The restaurant's management quietly settled with Danielle. No police report was ever filed. And then there was the nanny. A former childcare worker who had spent 2 years in the Whitmore household came forward after seeing the news coverage. She described a pattern of verbal abuse, constant belittling, racial comments, threats of deportation, even though the nanny was a U.S. citizen. She had quit without notice after Gretchen told her she was lucky to be allowed inside a house like this. 3 separate incidents, 3 separate victims, 3 women of color. The same pattern every single time. Prosecutor Graves introduced this evidence as proof of character and motive. The defense objected. The judge allowed it. Gretchen's attorney tried to negotiate. He proposed a plea deal, community service, anger management classes, no jail time, and a public apology. Prosecutor Graves rejected it in one sentence. This case is going to trial. The trial began 6 weeks later. The courtroom was packed. Every seat taken, a line of people stretched down the hallway outside, hoping to get in. Calvin Shaw reported live from the courthouse steps each morning. The prosecution's case was surgical. First, the security footage, played once in full, then again, frame by frame. The grab, the slap, the nurse standing motionless afterward. The courtroom was silent during both viewings. A woman in the gallery covered her mouth with her hand. Then came the witnesses. Brenda Collins took the stand first. She described what she saw in precise, steady detail. The words Gretchen used, the way she followed Harper into the hallway, the sound of the slap. Her voice cracked only once, when she described Harper pressing ice to her own face in the break room afterward. The orderly testified. The middle-aged man with the spilled coffee testified. A patient's daughter who had been standing in the hallway testified. Every account matched. Every detail aligned. Then Harper took the stand. She wore a simple navy dress, no jewelry except her mother's gold chain. She sat straight, she spoke clearly. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She described the morning, The routine, the patient, the wife, the words, the accusations, the grab, the slap. And then she said something that made the courtroom go completely still. I have spent 7 years taking care of people in that hospital. I have held patients' hands while they died. I have restarted hearts at 3 in the morning. I have cleaned wounds, changed bandages, and sat with families during the worst moments of their lives. And on that Tuesday morning, a woman looked at me and decided that none of that mattered because of the color of my skin. Nobody moved. The judge's pen stopped writing. A juror in the back row wiped her eyes. The defense tried everything: emotional distress, concern for her husband's safety, a misunderstanding that escalated. They even suggested Harper had been confrontational in her body language. None of it held. Not against the footage, not against the witnesses, not against Harper's testimony, not against the pattern. The jury deliberated for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Guilty, on all counts. Felony assault on a healthcare worker, hate crime enhancement. The sentencing came 1 week later. 18 months in state prison, 3 years of supervised probation, mandatory racial bias education, 500 hours of community service at a community health clinic, and $250,000 in restitution to Harper Powell. Gretchen's attorney requested leniency. The judge denied it. Healthcare workers are the backbone of our communities, the judge said. When someone attacks them, physically and through the weapon of bigotry, this court will respond with the full weight of the law. Gretchen collapsed into her chair. Her attorney put a hand on her shoulder. She shrugged it off. In the gallery, Harper sat with her eyes closed. Dominic held her hand. Neither of them smiled. This wasn't a celebration. It was an ending. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Calvin Shaw stood on the steps, microphone raised, reporting live. Guilty on all counts, 18 months in prison. A verdict that many here tonight are calling long overdue. Not just for this case, but for every healthcare worker who has ever been told they don't belong. 3 months later, Harper Powell walked back through the sliding glass doors of St. Adelaide Memorial. Same hospital, same fluorescent lights, same smell of bleach and recycled air. But something was different. She could feel it the moment she swiped her badge. People looked at her differently now, not with pity, with respect. She had been promoted to charge nurse of the ER. Dr. Crawford personally recommended her. No one on the floor questioned it. On her first day back, she found a card taped to her locker, signed by every nurse, orderly, and technician on the floor. 31 signatures. Some had written notes in the margins. Welcome home. We missed you. Strongest woman I know. She read it twice, folded it carefully, tucked it into her bag next to her mother's photograph. The hospital had changed too. New policies posted on every floor. Zero tolerance for violence against staff. Panic buttons installed at every nurse's station. A dedicated security officer assigned to the ER during peak hours. Harper's case had forced the board to act, and for once, they actually did. Harper and Dominic's wedding was quietly planned for the fall. Small ceremony, close friends, family only. She still didn't wear her engagement ring at work. Because she was Harper, her identity had never been about who she was marrying. It was about who she was. On her second week back, a new nurse arrived on the floor. 23 years old, fresh out of nursing school. Black, nervous. Her name was Simone, and she stood at the nurse's station on her first morning with wide eyes and trembling hands. Harper walked over, handed her a cup of coffee, looked her straight in the eye. You belong here. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Simone nodded, her shoulders relaxed. Just enough. Harper still drove her 6-year-old Honda Civic, still woke up at 5:15 a.m., still kept her mother's photo on the bedroom wall. Some things don't need to change. As for Gretchen Whitmore, everything changed. She reported to a state correctional facility 14 days after sentencing. No cashmere coat, no Hermes bag, no gold bracelets. Just an orange jumpsuit and a number. Terrence filed for divorce the same week. 28 years, and he signed the papers without hesitation. He also made a large donation to a national healthcare workers advocacy fund. Not as absolution, as acknowledgement that he had looked the other way for far too long. Gretchen's world collapsed. The country club revoked her membership. Charity boards removed her name. Former friends stopped returning calls. The woman who had commanded every room she entered was now alone in a cell with nothing but gray walls and a buzzing fluorescent light. Her name became a cautionary tale, a shorthand for what happens when entitlement meets accountability. But Harper's case went beyond one courtroom. 6 months after the verdict, the state legislature passed a bill strengthening protections for healthcare workers, enhanced penalties for assault, mandatory reporting protocols, and specific provisions for racially motivated incidents. The press nicknamed it Harper's Law. She was invited to speak at a national nursing conference. She almost declined, but Dominic convinced her, and Brenda threatened to drag her there personally. She stood at the podium in a simple black blazer. No notes. She looked out at 2,000 nurses and said 6 words. "We heal people. That should never make us targets." Standing ovation. Nearly a full minute. In the back row, Dominic stood with his arms crossed, smiling. So I'll leave you with this. What would you have done standing in that hallway? Would you have spoken up? Stepped in? Or looked away and hoped someone else would handle it? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you know a nurse, a doctor, any healthcare worker, share this with them. Let them know they're seen. Hit that like button if you believe justice should never have a color barrier. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. Ring that bell so you never miss one. Because at the end of the day, the uniform doesn't protect you. The badge doesn't protect you. The title doesn't protect you. People protect people. Be that person.
Do you know what I learned from Harper's story? Your worth doesn't disappear just because someone refuses to see it. Gretchen looked at the Harper and saw skin color. She didn't see 7 years of saving lives. She didn't see the hands that restarted hers at 3 in the morning. She chose to see nothing. But that didn't make Harper nothing. Not even for a second. And that's the lesson I think we all need. Because at some point, someone's gonna look at you and decide you don't belong. At work, in the room, in your own life, and in that moment, you have a choice. Do you let them define you, or do you stay who you are? Harper got slapped and didn't swing back. And some people might call that weak, but I call that the strongest thing I ever seen. Because the real strength isn't about hitting harder. It's about refusing to let someone turn you into something you are not. And here's the other thing. Gretchen had money. She had a name on a plaque. She thought that made her untouchable. But decency doesn't care about your bank account. Accountability doesn't check your net worth. It comes from everyone's same. So, if you know the healthcare worker, send them this. Let them know they matter. Like, share, and subscribe. Every week we bring you real stories, real justice. And remember, no one gets to tell you where you belong. You decided that always.